a velho dia. Talvez a lapa cantasse e em pedra gravasse a nossa alegria. Talvez a lapa sorrisse e a pedra se ouvisse. Olá, poesia. Se agora o rio pudesse juntar quem padece de tal nostalgia e tanta gente viesse sem sonhos nem preces e sem rebeldia.
Undersecretary Lansky Tiefenthal, Excellencies, Director Nasser, and ladies and gentlemen, I owe my life and that of my family to having been rescued by Aristides de Sousa Mendes. It is a privilege to stand here before you to acknowledge the gift of life so many received from him and attest to his contribution and his achievements. His role as the Portuguese Consul in Bordeaux, France, Sousa Mendes opened our gateway to freedom, affording us the escape from the Nazi dragnet and its horrific consequences.
I would say that as an individual person, Sousa Mendes saved more Jews than everyone else.
He acted, and by acting, he changed the course of history.
Here was this great Catholic man with 14 children who, in an act of bravery, issued reportedly 30,000 visas, including 10,000 to Jews.
He could have very well have turned his eyes to the other side and said, there's nothing I can do, it's not my responsibility, it's not my fault. My country is not involved, and therefore I have to sit back and follow instructions. No, he acted and he paid with his position, he paid with his livelihood.
And in his case, it required an absolute disobedience to the strict orders that he received from his government superiors. Can we really say that he was wrong to disobey?
In June of 2013, a group of people got together in Paris from all over the world to retrace the footsteps that their families had taken in 1940 to escape Nazi-occupied Europe. We were searching for Sousa Mendes, each one in our own way.
My parents were visa recipients of Aristides Mendes, Sousa Mendes, and I'm here to relive the experience that they had and to learn about Aristides Sousa Mendes.
We're here for the most important voyage of our lives, or my life anyway, to retrace the steps that my parents and family took in 1940.
I'm Sheila Branches-Pierce. I'm one of the granddaughters of Dr. Aristides de Sousa Mendes and his wife Angelina. And I'm here, obviously, to experience this with the visa recipients and their descendants.
I live in Brazil. My parents, my father was German and my mother was Italian, and they were in France, where luckily they heard about Sousa Mendes.
Before the war, there were 1.6 million Jewish children in Europe. Only 100,000 survived. Very few people know this. And you know what? 20 or 30,000, I don't know how many were children, survived from because of his grandpa.
So you never heard of Sousa Mendes?
No.
And nobody told you?
Nope. I think it's my first time I heard this name.
Sousa Mendes.
Sousa Mendes. I have no clue. מכירה סוסה מנדז? זה השם המלא? ניחוש?
לא, היה לך ניחוש? לי אין ניחוש.
איך קוראים לה קטנה?
דניאלה.
The bombs I first heard, I didn't know they were bombs, was May 10th. And I heard this loud banging and I went to the velvet curtains. I can still remember the color, this dark maroon, and I pulled them aside to see what those loud sounds were, and my father pulled me away from the window.
So very early in the morning, and my dad was shaving, and the window was open, and we saw these planes coming by, and I said, Dad, they are Henkels. What do you mean, Henkel? Yeah, they are Henkels, they are German. And he said, it's impossible, we are neutral. No, but they are Henkel. And of course, there were bombs, and we could hear guns, we couldn't know exactly what was going on.
In Bordeaux. And one of the men that he met was a Rabbi Kruger, and somehow Rabbi Kruger and Sousa Mendes became friends in Bordeaux. And Sousa Mendes offered, despite the orders of the government, he offered to Rabbi Kruger a visa into Portugal. And Rabbi Kruger said, I can't accept a visa unless all of my people get visas. At which time there were thousands of Jews in Bordeaux trying to escape the German horde.
Hello, my name is Kathy Rand, and 73 years ago, almost to the day, my father, Wolf Rand, left Paris and came to Bordeaux and was lucky enough to receive a visa from Aristide de Sousa Mendes, a fact that I only learned about 2 years ago because my father was either unable or unwilling to discuss his personal history, but I'm very excited to have walked today on the staircase at the consulate, the old consulate, and have walked the staircase and gone up and gone back, come back down and seen exactly where he walked. He must have walked 73 years ago. So I'm very humbled and honored to be here, and I'm just very glad that he did what he did, because without that, obviously, I would not be standing here today to talk to you all. So I'm very glad to be here.
Bombardment of the night of the 19th to the 20th was not against the population of Bordeaux, it was against the refugees. A lot of these refugees, out of despair, a number of refugees committed suicide right here. So Manuel spoke to an old lady who lived here and who recalled the inhuman conditions, the inhuman situation, and how despairing the refugees were. There were 64 dead and 300 something wounded. It was a night of fire. And so the refugees obviously were very scared, and a lot of them went towards Bayonne at that time, and so did Sousa Mendes. At that time, he took the decision to go to Bayonne along with the refugees.
Here, in between June 19th to June 20th, thousands, tens of thousands of refugees arrived here in Bayonne as the Germans started bombing in Bordeaux. From the place of the fountain here down the street, over there beside the docks, there were, they say, up to 70,000 people. So the vice, not the vice consul, but the secretary, Mr. Braga, called Aristides de Sousa Mendes in Bordeaux and said, Mr. Consul, we must close the consulate. The vice consul has left, and there's thousands of people. So Sousa Mendes told him, no, please stay there, don't close it, and start delivering visas. I'm coming.
When they got to this consulate in Bayonne, there was mass chaos. And the people were very scared and, agitated. My aunt told me that somebody, a man, Salazar, as a matter of fact, she said, stepped out on the balcony and told the crowds, people, don't worry, everybody's going to get a visa, calm down, and everybody's going to go to Portugal. As a matter of fact, later on, I found out that it wasn't Salazar, but it was Sousa Mendes.
In the morning of June 20th, my grandfather arrived here, and it's up through these stairs here in this apartment here on the second floor that he started issuing visas. Now there were a lot of people crowded in the stairs, and they were even afraid that the stairs, the whole staircase, could collapse. So my grandfather asked to bring down a table from the consulate right inside the building here, but at the bottom of the stairs. And this is where he started writing thousands of visas from June 20 to 24th. And this is actually the place where he issued about 30% of all the visas that he issued during those days.
Actually, it was a Via Dolorosa to abandon the France and to come to United States or to South American countries. Because you find a lot of difficulties in your way. Yes, you have to get, first of all, an exit visa from France. And then the Spanish government permitted to cross Spain under the condition that you have a Portuguese or another visa. And the Portuguese agree to give you a visa for 30 days under the condition that you can leave the country. And you can leave the country only if you can get a visa to United States or other parts. And sometimes occurred that you get a visa from United States for 1 year, for example, or from Brazil for a period of a few months, and then you had difficulties to get a visa from Portugal or from Spain, and when you come to Portugal, the American visa expired.
There was a laissez-passer stating that Monsieur Jacob Lottenberg, who was the chauffeur of a Colonel Giovanoli, should be allowed to go from Paris to Biarritz in a Peugeot car and to give him assistance if necessary. And finally, on the upper left side, in the back, there was Endai, June 25th, signed by Sousa Mendes. S. Mendes was the signature.
They did get the visas, and they passed through the French-Spanish border. Spain was devastated from the Civil War. The place was in chaos. There were beggars all around. If they even slowed down with the car, people would surround their car and they couldn't move. So they kept going without a stop through Spain.
My mother had taken bread and butter for us, and maybe some cheese, to eat along the road because we knew that Spain was in trouble. And she saw the misery along the road, she gave it to them. Spain was a year after the Civil War, and there was misery. It was sad, very sad.
This bridge that they call the Bridge of Liberty in Hendaye has witnessed the passage of the Republicans during the Spanish War, the Spanish Civil War, to come from Spain to France on that bridge. Later in 1940 and also after, the refugees of Aristide de Sousa Mendes in 1940 went across that bridge the other way towards Spain to flee the German invasion. And again, in the 60s, 70s, nearly 2 million Portuguese came back the other way to France to get away from the dictatorship in Portugal.
Among the tens of thousands of Sousa Mendes visa recipients were Salvador Dali, Hans and Margaret Ray, who wrote Curious George, and the royal families of Luxembourg and Austria.
At the moment that they arrived in Portugal, it was like the sky opened up and the sun started to shine. It was peaceful, the people were kind. They said, "Do you want a meal?" That was the first hot meal that they had in all the time that they were traveling, and my mother told me that they were traveling for at least 6 to 8 weeks. They had a hot meal, they were offered to take a shower, and they knew that their destination was Figueira da Foz.
In Figueira da Foz, I remember that we used to go to a movie theater that was on top of a building. One of the reasons that we're going is not only to honor Aristides, who in effect saved my family's life, but also in the hope of being able to find my sister's grave and paying our respects. My sister was Raymonde, and she died of dysentery at a time when penicillin wasn't available, other medicines were not available, and she died.
Was she sick for a long time?
Yeah, I don't know any of the details. My parents would never talk about it. Never. It was a closed chapter.
Tens and tens of papers having the name Jacques Luté. It was like discovering a treasure chest. And the paper stated, "This is to state that Mr. Jacques Luté / Jacob Lottenberg is an honorable citizen." So there it was, my father's real name, Jacob Lottenberg. So of course I understood that that meant that my father was Jewish. That was quite a revelation. And you might ask if I was happy or what was my reaction, but of course I was very happy, especially given the fact that my husband is Jewish. So that worked out well.
More and more foreigners of all races and different languages who are running from the tragic wind that is going through Europe. They come to the Portuguese oasis of peace. As always, the country receives them with the most hospitality it can give.
My parents stayed in Figueira da Foz for 1.5 years, they were probably the people who stayed there the longest. The only good fortune was that the people were marvelous and they were befriended by a wonderful man named Mr. Malafaia. When I meet, and I do hope to meet because I have been, I am going to be in contact with the daughter of Mr. Alberto Malafaia and his grandson. I'm going to bring them books. I'm going to do a Kodak book of all the pictures that I have where Mr. Malafaia is present, and a few where he's not present, which show how my parents spent a year, and the rest of the family spent 1.5 years in Portugal. It's representative of not only Mr. Malafaia, but the Portuguese people.
This is you?
My mother and my father.
Yes, and you?
It's me.
Right. And you?
Me with my mother.
Yes.
Mr. Listelli.
Yes.
I found the list where your family stay here in 1940, all your family, and I found the pension where you stay there.
Oh, thank you.
It's the list.
Oh, my. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the name of your father?
This is my father.
Yes.
That's my cousin. And that's my uncle and his family. And Hirsch, my father, and family. Wow.
I also found the house. If you want to go there,
Yes.
and the room,
Yes,
I want to give you.
Oh, good.
This is a little present. I think it's very important for you. Okay.
Thank you.
You are 4 years old.
Yeah.
And we are here near the sea. And the house is very near here if you want to
Yes.
go. And says, Rua Maestra David Sousa is there. Not
Yes,
there.
and number 30, it's
There
over
is,
there.
the 30 is there. A very old.
Okay.
Perhaps
it looks quite old.
Do 30 lá, pai. Foi construída em 1815.
Maybe you can tell them that I remember the house had a very narrow staircase.
É capaz de ser. É capaz.
You want to do?
It was on the corner of this.
Ah, não tem ninguém.
Talvez tenha.
Where many of the families were.
Maestra David Sousa 30.
I think you're right.
I am not. See.
Can you see in the windows, maybe? Can you tell?
Este parte, aquele parte, e todos se vão. Ó terra fica sem homens que possam cortar teu pão.
The story is the Portuguese ambassador in Madrid came to Bayonne to tell Aristides to stop issuing visas. So they went to the little place, which is maybe 100 meters from the consulate, and there he told them, what you're doing is totally illegal and it's crazy. So to that Aristides replied, well, if saving people from crazy orders means being crazy, I fully accept to be called crazy.
That he was running a huge risk. He had been forewarned. He had been already punished for disobeying instructions, and he knew that he was going to be sacked. That was clear.
If I had immediately trained Sousa Mendes in diplomacy, the first step that he should have taken, and maybe he did, was to argue as forcefully as possible with his superiors that the orders that they had promulgated, the rules that they had promulgated, were bad. Maybe he tried that.
He tried, but he tried to convince his superiors to give visas to people, to persecuted people in Bordeaux. But he understands that he will not get what he wants. And then he decided, against his superiors, to give visas.
I'm a diplomat, I'm not a teacher, anyway, what I think is, of course, when we have to train people, we have to train according to the professional skills. But then, of course, I think they are also people, and as people, they have morals, they have ethics, so I think everybody is free to act according to his conscience, but as I say, for me at least, I know that there are special circumstances that we should act differently and not by the rules.
And who questioned also the number of 30,000 trying to establish the possibility and so on. He said that the first ones to mention this number are the police when in the administrative trial that he had. And he saw this in the archives. Do you have this in the archives?
Yes, there is a note from the political police saying that in 1939 and 40, altogether, and maybe a bit of 41, I don't remember the precise dates, but this is mentioned here, I think.
Okay.
I will look
But
in
it was
a minute.
mentioned by the police first, this number.
The consolidated number was 40,000.
And he tried to defend himself with liberal and humane concepts. I did it because these people deserve help. And I helped them because they were human beings.
Il a suivi ce que sa conscience lui dictait par rapport à la misère et surtout ce que les gens qu'il voyait allaient subir comme mauvais traitement, et enfin qu'ils allaient vers les camps de la mort. Il le savait, et je pense qu'il le savait, et il n'était pas influencé, mais guidé aussi, appuyé dans son choix par son frère jumeau, qui était à Varsovie. C'est une impression.
My name is Luge, I'm 16, and I know who Aristide Sousa Mendes was, and I don't think that everyone my age will know exactly who he was, but some will.
If I go to your daughter's school and I ask questions to 10 students over there, 8th grade and higher, do they know about Sousa Mendes?
Se na nossa escola se perguntarem quem é o Aristide Sousa Mendes, sabem quem é.
Yeah, the teachers.
But not the students.
Students don't.
Olha, eu exponho, e é uma realidade, porque como eu disse há bocadinho, ele tinha um coração de ouro. Mesmo aqui, ele fazia muito bem aqui aos pobres, quando vinha por aqui, tinha uns empregados, tinha uma cozinha, faziam aqui, por vezes refeições, davam aqui, por isso ele provou-nos que era um bom coração, por isso ele prova que era um católico fervoroso, não é um homem, e então a consciência dele é que o deve ter chamado, ou Deus talvez até, não sei, chamou à realidade para salvar pessoas, porque eu acho que é muito importante, porque a vida das pessoas é o mais importante que temos no mundo, a vida e a saúde, não é? Nada.
Sousa Mendes was heavily punished for his act of moral courage as the Portuguese consul in Bordeaux. He was recalled to Portugal, where he faced a trial, and he was found guilty of disobedience. He was stripped of his position and demoted to a lower rank. But the dictator Salazar was not satisfied with the severity of this punishment, and he chose to inflict a further punishment of his own that took the form of him pushing Sousa Mendes into forced retirement, but it was more of a limbo state where Sousa Mendes wasn't able to collect any sort of pension. The family descended into a state of abject poverty, and they were forced to collect their meals at the soup kitchen of the Jewish community of Lisbon.
It was indeed my aim to save all these people whose suffering was indescribable. Some had lost their spouses. Others had no news of missing children. Others had seen their loved ones succumb to the German bombings, which took place every day and did not spare terrified refugees.
I mean, our parents devoted their whole lives to making sure their father's name was cleared and to make sure that his story, our grandparents' story was known. Not just the actions of my grandfather, but the actions of my grandmother. She sacrificed everything, and she lost everything for this, and there were no regrets.
4 years ago, I came here for the first time, and I saw the place. It wasn't as bad as it is today. It wasn't as bad as it is today. Every day that passes by is dangerous, because every day is coming closer to the collapse and the end of this building. E chegou a hora, não breve, amanhã, fazer todo o necessário para salvar esse lugar.
A mere year and a half ago, February 2012, the Sousa Mendes Foundation contacted my grandfather with the story of how he was saved from World War II. a visa signed and stamped by Aristides de Sousa Mendes. A month later, I saw a photograph of the Casa do Pasal. The caption read, "The family's most ardent wish is to restore their ancestral home. There was only one course of action, to act." What better way to pay homage to the man who saved my family than with architecture itself? Work towards fairness is a monument, an exhibition, and a plea. On the surface, it is a monument to Aristides. The exterior contains the signature 30,000 times, one for each of the people he is estimated to have saved. The interior contains a full exhibition about the Sousa Mendes story, past and present, photographs of those he saved, and information about the terrifying times that they had lived through.
E expressamos a nossa alegria a cantar as palavras do Salmo 133, com a da Bíblia, que foi da Escritura, que foi ainda há pouco citada pelo rabino da comunidade de Lisboa. Inem atov manaim shevet achim gam yachad.
Definitely. And it also can show that if you save one life, you save a world, because that's actually what's coming out of that one life. All these people who were saved had children and have grandchildren, and these grandchildren will also expand, and that's the best thing that could happen from saving people, to see the continuation of life.
My nephew, he, as young kids do, they have tattoos, and his first tattoo was our family coat of arms, and around it says, "I'd rather be with God against man than man against God." And he too was very proud about this tattoo.
Motivated by goals that were fashioned by deeply felt human and religious values, Sousa Mendes contravened his government's instructions and continued to issue visas to desperate refugees. For this act of humanity, his government terminated his diplomatic career and confiscated his personal property. His defiance was fueled by an upbringing which instilled morality and awe of a higher being, and by putting conscience before personal consideration. It reflects the words of the Christian theologian Miroslav Volf. God is both the ground of the protest and its target. I protest, and therefore I believe. For me, Aristides de Sousa Mendes was the embodiment of thought in Jewish tradition that states that whoever saves a life, it is considered as if he had saved the entire world. To the Sousa Mendes family, and in particular to his grandchildren, Sheila Branches Pierce and Louis Philippe Mendes, who are with us today, I simply want to say thank you. On behalf of myself, my family, my brother Peniel Moed, and other visa recipients who are here today, and to their future generations.
And there's my sister again.
Oh my God.
What is this?
This is actualizations from the first list.
This is Raoul Levy. He was a very famous filmmaker, a lover of Brigitte Bardot.
Raoul Levy?
What is incredible to me is that people are finding in their papers or in their parents' papers, although they had never heard about the story, they're finding the visa with the signature as a proof, and that's what is bringing all these people together today. They have a signature on a paper.
Rosas brancas para mim ninguém as corte. Quando eu morrer, rosas brancas para mim ninguém as corte. Quem as não teve na vida, de que lhe servem na morte? Quando eu morrer, rosas brancas para mim ninguém as corte. Quando eu morrer, nem sequer na campa uma cruz erguida. Quando eu morrer, nem sequer na campa uma cruz erguida. Para Calvário já basta a cruz que levo na vida. Quando eu morrer, nem sequer na campa